we're trying something new today.
Today's video, we are doing a fashion full bit. I'm talking history, a little DIY, a fashion lookbook, some makeup. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, I am Amy Serrano. Yes, like the pepper for anybody who's new. And today's video, you guys, another fashion video. Okay, I'm on one today. I'm just so excited. Anytime I do fashion, I'm just like, ugh, especially when it's paired with makeup, and you know how I like to mix everything up. So today we are going to be focusing on Maison Margiela. It's kind of like a thrift the runway, but kind of not, because we're not necessarily going to the thrift store, but we are gonna create something.
So we are gonna be creating that iconic sock sweater by Margiela. Margiela is the deconstruction genius. I'm gonna make this really brief, but the way that he upcycles is honestly so inspiring and ahead of the fashion game, in my opinion, and is why he continues to be referenced and inspiring designers today. And let's not forget how the tabby boot is still one of the most coveted shoes on the market right now. So if you are new to hearing the name Margiela, definitely stream the documentary Martin Margiela in his own words by filmmaker Rainer Holzheimer. I'm so sorry if I got that name wrong, but the documentary details his story. He has always refused interviews, so this really was such a treat. He innovates fashion in ways the fashion industry hadn't seen yet, deconstructing things like socks and gloves and even dishes and reconstructing them onto the bod so beautifully really takes vision and of course skill. He went solo in 1988 after working for Jean-Paul Gaultier and has given us pure art, my friends. I love going back to those early shows and just drooling over his unconventional approach. Everything he did was always in an entirely different direction than what was mainstream at the time, like staying anonymous. Even his district logo versus the 90s logo mania is a vast difference, to not bowing at fashion shows to where he would hold his fashion shows. It really spoke to his authenticity, and I really feel like you have to have the balls, for lack of a better word, to really stay true to yourself in a time that it wasn't as celebrated. Even his exit in 2008 is a testament to his authenticity, which he kind of sort of touches on in the documentary. But anyways, now Galliano is creative director, and they actually have a little series right now which you can totally catch on YouTube. It's called Sealed with a Little Kiss, and I've never seen a fashion house be this transparent when it comes to their creative. I mean, they're letting you into calls and all kinds of stuff. I would highly suggest you check it out. But anyways, I thought it'd be cool to kind of borrow a little bit of this Margiela philosophy from his authenticity, this deconstruction, this resourcefulness. I thought it was pretty timely and really cool to share.
It is the epitome of reconstruction, deconstruction, and I feel like that's kind of what I do with Thrift the Runway, you know, just trying to make old scraps cool and, you know, give it a different life. And not to like toot my own horn or anything, but I feel like I can also go into thrift stores and, like, you know, look in the home decor section or look at like a backpack and I'm like, okay, I think I can do this into a top, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just definitely repurposing things that you wouldn't normally think of. So I am far from skilled at sewing. It's something that I learn every time I do a Thrift the Runway. I learn something new. Honestly, it's always, I'm just trying something out. So I thought it'd be cool to kind of create this top. Maybe we can learn together if you want to try it out as well, which I found the directions on a magazine curated by, and this one, and this issue, which was issue number 1, was actually curated by Martin Margiela, which is amazing, which was published actually in 2004. I came across it honestly like maybe last year. I'll have that linked for you in the description box, so if you want to make your own, you can follow these instructions, but I will be making it with you as well, because there are a few notes that I think can help you perfect it even better than what I did, because it can get a little bit like there's no measurements, so it can get a little bit confusing, I guess. And also I need to shout out, I think his YouTube, I subscribe to him and everything, I think his YouTube is geared to be geared. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, dude. But I'm gonna have him linked below as well, his video, because his video is honestly done so well. Actually, when I was in the process of creating my own sock sweater, I kind of came across these issues where I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm doing. So I actually YouTubed like this Margiela sweater, and his video came up, and it's just so beautifully done. So shout out to, I think his name is Avery. I'm really excited to share the process with you guys. I'm going to be putting together a few outfits that I think are very Margiela-esque as well. That's why I feel like it's a little bit Thrift the Runway in a sense, because there is like a mini lookbook.
What you'll need is 4 pairs of socks. The instructions do ask for 8, but we will only use 4. And also make sure that they are 100% cotton or wool, but if you do find a blend, just go ahead and use that. You'll also need a pair of scissors, some pins will be nice, a sewing machine, we are going to be using an overlock stitch, or you can also use a zigzag stitch like I did because mine did not have an overlock stitch. You'll also need some thread that will match the color of your sock.
When to make at home, a step-by-step guide to making your own. So cool. I think this is like the coolest thing ever, that we can actually make this thing at home. They want us to cut here.
And from the same pair of socks, you're also going to cut the top cuff. Just keep in mind that this is going to be for the collar, about 2 inches, I would say.
Shoulders, the elbows, la la la. We don't cut this because this is our cuff, and then we just cut this little end here too.
So for the arms, I did use 4 socks total, so 2 pairs. And I'm just kind of measuring it out all the same. Again, the instructions don't have any measurements, so I'm kind of just eyeball measuring.
These are gonna be our sleeves. Okay, got it. Okay, so these are our sleeves. It's gonna be something like this.
So with that pair of socks that we cut the cuff and the toe, we're also gonna cut down the center opposite of the heel, and this is gonna be our shoulder section. So let's just set the arms aside for now and move on to the body, which is really easy. Body, adi, adi. You're just going to be snipping off. This one you are going to be using 2 pairs of socks, so 4 socks total, and just snip off the toe. The other end is going to be basically the hem of the sweater. And again, we are going to be cutting through that front section of all 4 socks, just opening it in half. So we are going to be adding some darts that's just going to flatter the chest a bit better, ladies. And what you do is just turn it, and then you're just going to flip over that toe section, and we're going to sew through that rounded toe area. So once you stitch that, it'll look something like this, maybe better than mine, less wavy. But basically, we're just going to get rid of that extra bulk. We don't need her anymore. And then you can also take your iron and flatten everything out so the seam is nice and laid. So now it's really time to construct the body, which is such a fun part because you really see it come together. Put the 2 right sides together with each panel and then stitch. That way all of the seams are in the inside. And you also want to pay attention to how those darts are lining up. You don't want them to be all janky and wavy, especially since we haven't really been measuring with numbers. So yeah, just pay attention to that for sure, and use that overlock or zigzag stitch. A little tip that I wanted to pass along that I saw after I created this was do a straight stitch, giving 1.5 seam allowance, and then do your zigzag stitch after. That way you're for sure not going to have any gaping holes or puckering, and I think it could lead to a more smoother finish, especially with these blended socks, because it is really hard to find 100% cotton socks. Like, I challenge you. Okay, so personally this is where I had the most trouble, was doing the arms. So you're just going to want to stitch the 2 arms together, so like that shoulder piece that I showed you, and then also that elbow piece, and just kind of try it on even in pieces, just so you can see where the elbow is and also where the shoulder is. That is my advice to you, because mine was definitely off. But you're going to want to just stitch the 2 sides together, putting one section inside out and then stitching it. That way it's all of the seams again are in the inside. I kind of wish I did it by hand. I think it would have been easier, but you know, we kind of managed. So this is what mine are looking like. Not terrible. But we are going to now put the body. Now that we have the body constructed and the arms constructed, we just have to put them together. So with our 2 shoulder pieces is how everything is going to come together. So first we're just going to sew a seam down the center, connecting the 2 shoulder pieces. And it was at this point that I realized everything was about to be off, because the distance between the shoulder and the elbow was looking a little bit short. So I felt like maybe I cut off a little bit too much. And then I also was like, let me just see if the shoulder width is gonna fit, because like, how can this top fit everybody? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So my dumbass only put on 1 section, and I was feeling really good about it. I was like, okay, yeah, it works. But honestly, just take a measuring tape and measure the distance between your shoulders, measure that against the shoulder piece that we just created, because you can always just take off from that seam that we created in the center of bridging the two together, if that makes sense. God, this is a mouthful, you guys. So what you're gonna do if it is too big for you, like it was for me, just unstitch the stitch we just created, cut to measure what your shoulder length is, and then restitch it. So now that our shoulder piece has all come together, we are gonna take that opening side of it and stitch it to the body section. And before you stitch that all together, you do have to create some armholes as seen in these instructions. It was a bit challenging for me, so I don't have any tips other than I did a hand stitch. Now the full sweater should be intact and we can move on to the collar. A little half round for our neck opening, and then we're gonna stitch our collar together. So we're gonna grab those cuffs again, cut it in half each section, and then we're gonna stitch that together and then stitch it to the opening. And we have our sweater. So definitely a lot of learning lessons. Can we talk about how long this took me? And it still looks a bit jank, but I'm still so proud of it, and it did give me some confidence to continue sewing as well, just because of those little mistakes that I made, or big mistakes that I made. Some things to take into account is definitely there would be less wavy and puckering like that had I used 100% cotton, 100% wool, because mine did have a bit of a blend making it stretchy. Also, I didn't have that overlock stitch, so I should have left a bigger seam allowance, because that's why I have some of those gaping holes, and everything's off-centered, so definitely details to consider next time as well. And I also was just throwing these panels, like the arms and the shoulders, through the machine, just like Jesus take the wheel, like doing the sign of the cross, like let's see what comes out. But I would definitely urge you, hopefully this gave you some confidence that it doesn't have to be super perfect right off the bat when you first try something. Like, you know, you are gonna make your mistakes, but they're just learning lessons. Before we move on to how I'm styling this sock sweater, let's go into makeup and do a little Margiela look.
Let's make ourselves into a Margiela model. Okay, I like kind of studied the Margiela runways, and honestly, like Maison never really likes to show the models. It's always more about the clothes rather than focusing on like the face. So they will do these like full-blown, you know, like kind of head masks. There's some that are bedazzled, there's some that are just sheer-like. As I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna move on to my foundation. Sometimes he would have even the, I love this foundation, by the way. This is like my new favorite foundation. Sometimes they would have like a strip, almost like they're anonymous. Sometimes they would have bangs fully covering their face, hair covering their face. I kind of looked at the more recent ones. I do want it to feel a little bit grungy, a little bit darker. And then we'll throw on the white. So I'm gonna be using this gel cream pop by ColourPop. This is called Exit. You can use this as eyeliner. I'm gonna use this as like a messy, I'm gonna use my fingers, okay? I'm just gonna dip right in there, and it's really like finger paint to me. We can always clean it up with Q-tips. And literally just do this straight across here, just to clean that up, like really fast, like this. Now I'm just adding little like splotches. I'm gonna add a little bit of this Tom Ford just to the highlights, and then we'll finish it off with some mascara. Okay, we added a little mascara to the top and bottom lashes. I'm gonna add this lip gloss. I think a really glossy lip could be fun. So now I just pulled out some of my most like Margiela-esque items that I already had in my closet. For the shoes, obviously the shoes, the tabby boot is like a must, but I don't have that. So I was thinking just to make these a bit more Margiela-esque. I actually had these to sell, just like donate them, but I'm like, you know what? I should just spray paint these. So let's do that now. Ooh, it is bright as hell. You know this quarantine you get into and you're like, okay, let's see what I have in my garage, you guys. I really don't want to go to Home Depot. Please let me have spray paint up in here. We need white. Oh, of course, we have pink. Come on. Okay, we found a color, you guys. It's a little chewed up. I don't know what the fuck happened, but I really was looking for white. This is a smoky beige. I think it'll go really well with the sweater. It's a little matchy-matchy, but it. I don't want to go to Home Depot. So how are you feeling that Margiela vibe? You gotta let me know which one is your favorite outfit and how I styled it. Obviously, we already said the little sweater's a little crook shank. I mean, we got our elbows like up here. I really learned a lot through this project and I'm so excited to create another one. Hopefully you learned through my mistakes. I really hope you get out there and try it out, especially if you have been telling me on DMs that you want to sew, because I do get quite a bunch that you feel inspired. And tag me if you do have Instagram. I'd love to see what you create, how you style it. And to Martin Margiela for the endless inspiration. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's fashion video. Subscribe for more and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Are literally on a level 100, you guys. I think it's these shoes. These shoes, put on a fucking power boot, you guys, and you're gonna feel something, okay?